Most men spend years chasing the wrong things: muscles, money, and meaningless compliments. And while those things might catch a woman's attention for a moment, they rarely keep her heart. Let me ask you something. Have you ever met a woman who seemed fully into you at first, only to suddenly grow distant? You didn't change, you still showed up, still cared, and yet, she drifted away like your presence had become optional. The harsh truth is, it wasn't because you lacked value, it's because you didn't trigger what keeps her emotionally hooked. What if I told you that there are 7 invisible forces, psychological switches, that, when activated correctly, can make a woman not just love you, but crave you, even become obsessed with you in the most sincere, natural way? This isn't about tricks, and it's definitely not about manipulating anyone. These 7 elements are rooted in real human psychology and the ancient wisdom of Stoicism. They're the traits that high-value men naturally embody, men who don't beg for love, but become the kind of presence that women can't let go of. And the truth is, most men never learn this. Not because it's complicated, but because society teaches them to impress instead of to connect. So if you've ever felt like you're giving more than you receive in relationships, comment yes below. You're not alone, and today that changes. In this video, we're going to walk through 7 subtle but powerful shifts that can turn a woman's emotional compass directly toward you. The last 2 are so potent. You'll start to notice how differently women respond to you almost instantly. But first, let's begin with the one that sets the entire tone: the possibility of commitment. A woman doesn't become obsessed with a man because he promises her the world. She becomes obsessed because she can imagine one with him. It's not certainty that draws her in, it's the beautiful, maddening question: could this be something real? The most magnetic men don't rush to commit, and they don't shut the door on it either. They live in the space between, where hope and uncertainty dance. That space is where obsession is born. Here's the problem: most men either jump too fast, hoping commitment will make her stay, or they act completely aloof, thinking mystery will do the work for them. Both extremes fail. Why? Because women are wired to be emotionally engaged in possibility. Not in games, but in anticipation. Imagine this: you're seeing someone new. Instead of laying out your entire vision for the future, you take your time. You reveal your depth slowly. You show her your values, not through long speeches, but through quiet consistency. This makes her wonder, do I meet his standards? Is he the kind of man who sees me long term? She starts to evaluate herself for you, and that's when she becomes emotionally invested. Because in her eyes, you're not just another guy trying to win her over. You're a man with a life, a mission, and a clear sense of who he lets into his world. And here's the Stoic element: you're not waiting on her validation. You're calm, observant, and selective. You don't need to control the future because you trust your process. You're not being distant to play hard to get. You're simply not rushing to give something sacred to someone who hasn't earned it yet. So when she asks, "Where is this going?" you don't panic. You smile and say, "I'm enjoying what we have, and I value getting to know you deeply." It's honest, it's confident, and it keeps her intrigued. When done right, the possibility of commitment isn't a tactic. It's an energy, and it makes her stay up at night wondering, what if I'm the one who finally makes him choose? That's how obsession begins. Now let's make it even stronger, with the next trigger: making your attention like a drug. Attention is one of the most addictive substances in a woman's emotional world. But not just any attention, it has to be rare, intentional, and deeply felt. Think of your attention like fire. If it's always burning, it loses its magic. But if it only sparks when she's near, she'll keep coming back for the warmth. Here's where most men fail. They think constantly texting her, calling her, checking in, planning the next date. That's how they show they care. But in reality, overexposure kills attraction. When your attention is always available, it becomes background noise. Now picture this instead. When you're with her, you're fully present. You listen, you flirt, you lead. You create a space where she feels safe, desired, and completely alive. Then afterward, you vanish, not in a manipulative way, but because you return to your life, your mission, your work, your purpose. This creates contrast, and contrast is powerful. She starts to associate you with emotional highs. The time you spend together feels like a high-quality experience, and when you're gone, she craves that feeling again. Not because you're playing games, but because you're living a life worth missing. You become like a luxury item, rare, valuable, and unforgettable. And what happens when something rare touches you? You replay it. You hold on to it. You want more. Let's take a simple example. You take her out on a thoughtful date, no distractions, no rushing, just real connection. At the end of the night, instead of texting her paragraphs about how amazing it was, you say, "I had a great time. Let's talk soon." Then silence. She replays the night, the moments, the eye contact, the way you made her feel. That space, that pause, is where attachment builds. Just like a favorite song you don't overplay, your attention becomes something she treasures, not expects. Stoicism teaches us to guard our energy. Your time is sacred. You give it where it matters, not because you're cold, but because you know your worth. And that makes your presence feel like a privilege. So ask yourself, are you giving attention? Or are you giving value? Because when your attention becomes a rare experience, she'll start craving it like a drug. Next, let's dive into a power most men overlook, using silence to your advantage. Most men fear silence. They think it means something's wrong, or worse, that they're losing her interest. But high-value men know the truth. Silence isn't a void, it's a weapon. It's in the pause that tension builds. It's in the quiet moment that a woman leans in, wondering, analyzing, feeling. And when used wisely, silence speaks louder than words ever could. Let's be honest, modern dating is loud. Texts, notifications, endless talking. Everyone's trying to impress, explain, prove. But when you're the one who stays grounded, who's calm, who lets your presence do the talking, you stand out like a lighthouse in a storm. Imagine you're on a date. She shares something personal, maybe a dream, maybe a pain. Most men rush to fill the silence with advice or reassurance. But you pause. You hold eye contact. You nod slowly, and you say nothing. That moment, she feels seen. She feels heard. She feels safe. Not because of what you said, but because of how you held space for her. And it goes deeper. When you take time to reply to her texts, not as a strategy, but because you're focused on your life, you communicate something powerful. You're not dependent on the interaction. You're grounded. Your silence makes her wonder, what's on his mind? Is he thinking about me? That curiosity turns into attachment. Stoic men understand the strength of restraint. We don't speak to fill the air. We speak when it matters. We move when it counts. And in the silence, we let others reveal themselves. There's also a subtle psychological trick at play. When you're silent, she begins to project her own emotions onto you. She fills in the blanks. And often, she fills them with intrigue, admiration, or desire. But here's the key, don't overdo it. Prolonged or awkward silence comes off cold or uninterested. Use it when the moment asks for depth, when a pause can make your words land harder, or when space builds mystery. Because sometimes, the most unforgettable thing you can say is nothing at all. Now let's flip the dynamic and let her start investing in you. Up next is creating small concessions. Here's a secret most men never realize. If you want a woman to truly value the relationship, she has to contribute to it, not in grand gestures or expensive gifts, but in small, subtle ways that make her feel like she's building something with you, not just receiving from you. And the more she invests, emotionally, mentally, even physically, the more attached she becomes. This is what psychologists call the commitment and consistency principle. When someone puts effort into something, they're more likely to view it as important. Why? Because the human brain hates wasting energy. So if she gives even a little of herself, her mind starts to believe, this must be worth it. Think about this in practice. You're on your third date. You say, "Hey, could you bring that bottle of red wine you mentioned last week?" Simple, low effort. But now, she's made a contribution. Or maybe she once told you about a playlist she loves. You follow up. Send that over. I want to hear what inspires you. Now she's sharing a piece of her world. That's a form of intimacy. And she's investing without even realizing it. Here's the Stoic layer. You're not asking because you need her help. You're inviting her into your life, your rhythm, your process. You're giving her the chance to belong, rather than just observe. Each small yes she gives you builds emotional equity. And the more she says yes, the more she wants to say yes again. That's how attachment works, not through one dramatic gesture, but through consistent, shared movement. Just remember, tone is everything. You're not demanding. You're not delegating. You're simply opening doors for her to walk through, then genuinely appreciating her when she does. A quiet, thanks, that meant a lot, after a small favor, can echo louder than any compliment. Over time, she won't just see you as someone she likes. She'll see you as someone she's committed to, because she's already started building something with you. And now that she's emotionally engaged, let's deepen the connection further. It's time for building a narrative she believes in. If you want a woman to feel deeply connected to you, you have to offer more than attraction. You have to offer a story, because women don't just fall in love with a man. They fall in love with the meaning they attach to him. That means the way you make her feel isn't just about what you do, it's about what it represents. When she looks back on your moments together, what story does she tell herself? Is she just another girl you dated? Or is she someone who fits into a bigger, more meaningful journey? Let's break this down. You go on a date. You both laugh until your stomachs hurt. Later you say, "I don't think I've laughed like that in a long time." There's something about your energy. It just makes the world feel lighter. That's not just flattery, it's narrative building. You're showing her that your connection is different, that it has emotional significance. When you call back to previous moments, you know what this reminds me of? That night we talked for hours at the cafe. That stuck with me. Now you're layering meaning. You're not just spending time with her, you're collecting memories. And every memory becomes a thread in a story where she matters. But here's the Stoic twist. You don't do this to get her attached. You do it because you live with presence. You're not just floating through interactions, you're building a life of depth, of purpose. And when someone joins that energy, you recognize it. You honor it. Be specific with your compliments. Don't just say you're beautiful. Say, there's something about the way you see the world. It's thoughtful, kind, a little wild. It makes being around you feel refreshing. And let your actions support the story. Consistency, presence, intention. These are the plot points that prove this connection isn't just chemistry, it's something that matters. Because once a woman starts to believe she plays a meaningful role in your life story, she doesn't want to be written out of it. And once that happens, you've set the stage for the next emotional trigger, making her feel unique. Every woman wants to feel like she's one of a kind, not just beautiful, but seen in a way that no one else sees her. And here's where most men fail. They rely on generic praise. You're gorgeous. Nice. Sure. Memorable? Not at all. Because she's heard it 100 times before, and from men who didn't even bother to look deeper. But when you notice the details, her timing when she tells a joke, the way she lights up talking about her passions, how she calms down when she listens to music she loves, that's when you make her feel irreplaceable. Let's say she tells you she's into classical music. The next time you see her, you casually say, "I was listening to Debussy the other day, and for a second, I got why you love it. It's peaceful but haunting, just like you described." Boom. Now she's not just heard, she's understood. Making a woman feel unique isn't about grand gestures. It's about precision. It's about remembering what she said in passing and using it to shape the moments you share. Maybe she mentioned she loves a specific dessert. You show up with it, no big speech, just a smile. She thinks he actually listens. And that thought, it's powerful. Now here's the deeper layer. Stoic men listen with presence. Not to impress, not to respond, but to know someone fully. And in doing so, we create space for her to drop the performance, to relax, to be herself. If you want to stand out from every man she's ever dated, don't just make her feel adored, make her grow. You see, most guys fall into one of two traps. They either agree with everything she says, hoping to stay on her good side, or they constantly argue, trying to assert dominance. Both fail, because neither of them respects her intelligence or honors their own. But a high-value man? He walks a different path. He doesn't challenge her to win. He challenges her to elevate the conversation, the connection, and even herself. Imagine this. She says, "I think traveling is the best way to grow as a person." You pause, smile, and ask, "Do you think growth still happens if someone never leaves their hometown?" Not confrontational, not combative, just a simple invitation to think deeper. And that moment, it sparks something in her, because now she's engaged, not just emotionally, but intellectually. That's what most men miss. Women crave stimulation, not just physical or emotional, but mental. They want to feel challenged in a way that's playful, respectful, and exciting. You can tease her lightly, push her perspective gently, or ask her to step up in ways that surprise her. Maybe you say, "You always talk about your amazing taste. How about you plan our next date and show me?" Now she's not just receiving effort, she's contributing, investing, playing the game with you. This kind of challenge keeps her intrigued, because you're not predictable. You're not bending to everything she says, and you're not shutting her down either. You're dancing on that razor's edge where chemistry lives. And here's the Stoic layer. You stand firm in your values, but remain open to new ideas. You don't need to win every point. You just want the truth, the growth, the clarity. And in that space, she sees something she rarely finds. A man who respects himself enough to lead, and respects her enough to invite her alongside. The truth is, when you challenge her in the right way, you make her feel alive. You make her feel like she's with someone who sharpens her mind, stirs her emotions, and awakens her feminine energy all at once. And once she experiences that balance, she won't just like you, she'll be obsessed with you. Now that we've covered all 7 triggers, let's bring it all together in the final reflection. Let's close this journey with integrity. You've just learned 7 powerful emotional triggers, tools that don't just attract women, they anchor them, deeply, quietly, irresistibly. But here's the truth most men miss: these aren't tactics. They're reflections of the man you become when you stop chasing and start leading. Let's recap. When you offer the possibility of commitment, not rushed, not withheld, you make her wonder. When your attention is rare and intentional, it becomes a craving. When you embrace silence, you stand apart in a world addicted to noise. When you invite her to make small concessions, you pull her into your world. When you build a narrative she can believe in, you give her something worth holding on to. When you make her feel unique, you touch the part of her that fears being replaceable. And when you challenge her just enough, you earn not only her curiosity, but her respect. These 7 shifts aren't about control. They're about presence, precision, and purpose. Because at the core of every woman's obsession is a man who lives so fully, so authentically, that she can't help but be pulled into his gravity. And that's who you are becoming, not through tricks or manipulation, but through awareness, discipline, and the courage to be intentional. So here's your next move. Pick one of these 7 strategies and apply it this week. Not all of them at once, just one. Let her feel the shift and watch what happens. And when you do, come back and comment below. Tell us what changed. If you found value here, like this video to support the message. Comment the strategy you're most excited to try. And subscribe to the Stoic Golden Rule for more insight on how to lead your relationships with wisdom, presence, and strength. Because high-value men don't seek validation. They become the standard. And women, they don't just follow, they attach. Until next time, stay grounded, stay intentional, and stay true to your worth.